Kevin Christopher. Oh, and there is a copy of the questions right underneath where you just put the keyboard, just in case you get brain freeze and want to refer to the question that you were addressing. Okay. Yeah? Okay, so we'll start again with your personal statement. Why are you interested in serving on the city's planning commission? In your response, please include a summary of your relevant education, skills, and experience, including any past civic involvement.
Sure. Hello. I am interested in serving on the Planning Commission because I'm mindful of the opportunity that representative government presents. My paternal family stretches back over 200 years in the Appalachian region of Bluefield, West Virginia, a town literally named for bituminous coal. All throughout that mining region, representation has historically been non-existent. A township is created, flourishes, and dies as mining rights are exploited and resources exhausted. Some years ago, I witnessed a similar decay living in Wuhan, China. There all villages within the Three Gorges project plan were ordered by centralized mandate to evacuate or drown. Born and raised in the South, I have seen plenty of examples of racial injustices dictating how communities are shaped. In Emeryville, I have an opportunity to participate in an open forum among community members to represent the development interests of our colleagues, neighbors, and visitors to the council and to regulate when necessary. I believe in open government and civic participation, and I believe in the members of the commission and my ability to further their efforts towards a relevant and sustainable Emeryville.
Second question, what do you see as the role of a planning commissioner?
I believe that my role as a planning commissioner would involve the use of my legal training to fairly and soundly evaluate variance and permit requests. I would also be tasked with objectively considering recommendations from advisory committees and making recommendations to the council. My role as commissioner would be influenced by my background work in renewable energy policy and technological development, as well as my primary occupation in supporting the UC Berkeley innovation ecosystem. Generally, I believe that any commissioner should be accessible and conversant, willing to heed the desires of diverse interest groups and individuals of Emeryville.
Okay. Third question, describe your knowledge of the city's general plan and any other major planning documents that have been adopted by the city council in the past 2 years.
I have read the general plan and believe in its vision of a livable and diverse city. The guiding principles of the plan are commonly referenced in the other committees in which I participate, the Economic Development Advisory Committee and the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. However, it is important to note that the general plan contains inaccuracies. To illustrate, my building is designated as office technology within the general plan, and on page 45 of the plan, live-work uses are not permitted within this building. However, we have about 30 such live-work units within this building and 5 infant residents under the age of 1. Because of its inaccurate designation, young families in our building are subject to street parking policies that create unsafe and burdensome conditions for them. I hope that as commissioner I can help reconcile some of these inaccuracies within the plan.
Please give one example of a recent economic development or housing project in Emeryville that exemplifies your point of view regarding design, community benefit, and/or community process, and explain why.
I live in the Hollis complex just across the street from Doyle Hollis Park. On a daily basis, I commute to and from work along the greenway adjacent to the park. I use the greenway to regularly access Berkeley Bowl and to generally amble about with my wife, infant son, and/or bulldog. I've noticed over the last 3 years that the build-out of the greenway has stimulated use of the Doyle Hollis Park by a crowd that is more culturally diverse and drawn from beyond the North Hollis zone boundaries. In combination, I feel it's safe to identify the greenway and park as the community hub of Emeryville.
Mayor Brinkman, follow-up questions from the council?
Okay. Any questions? We'll start with Nora this time.
Yeah,
I'm interested in the same aspect of your ability to look at renderings and plans and blueprints and translate them into something close to reality. We all have experienced renderings that really don't fit what the final object is. So if you could comment on that, what your ability would be to do that. I know you have legal training, but this is more on the graphic side, more on a little bit different.
Sure, and you're right, the legal training would go more towards the policies and things of
Right.
that nature. Before coming to the Bay Area, I worked for Habitat for Humanity, so I have some experience with construction, with design, with building programs. There's a stipend associated with this position, and I'd like to use that for lead training and certification. I really believe that that's important for the planning commissioners to be privy to those kinds of sustainable metrics.
Thank you.
Ruth?
In your application, you focus on the strides we've made in our open space and park area, mostly. This is a city that loves mixed-use zoning. So do you have any ideas about if projects came before you, can you think about things about where a type of use or a type of building may not fit in its with its neighbors?
Sure. So the previous applicant, I think, did a great job of identifying the Greenway East, or cruise ship building, as it's called on my block, as something that may not necessarily fit into that particular section and neighborhood of Emeryville. The Greenway is supposed to go right up to that building. Professionally, I look at that as an opportunity. I work at Berkeley supporting collaboration with industry, supporting startup companies. I sort of manage a contract portfolio for a research institute associated with the Joint Bioenergy Institute right across the street from that building. And so professionally, I look at it as an opportunity for lab space for companies to reside. But I do agree that mixed use is vital. I think that there are plenty of opportunities for things like small hubs, co-working spaces. There's nothing like that in Emeryville. Co-working space would stimulate commuting patterns. It would bring individuals to a certain center at all hours of the day and night. Small businesses around a hub or co-lab type space would benefit as well. And so I think that there's plenty of room for all kinds of projects of that nature.
You mentioned that there seems to be a small baby boomlet in your building.
Yes.
What do you see as the role of the Planning Commission in supporting family-friendly policies and family-friendly housing developments in Emeryville?
Well, it's important, and I have to just address that that's the minority voice in Emeryville. I mean, if you look at the demographics of Emeryville compared to other communities around the Bay Area, Emeryville has the largest percentage of non-married, single, no kids roommates throughout the Bay Area. And so we have a high interest of young professionals in our community who are not having kids. And even the people in my building, the parents of the 5 infants, when they're having kids, they're immediately exploring other areas to move to. So things like the Greenway and the park, those are nice for families, but we definitely need more. And I think that my work on the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee, along with Scott and others, we attempt to address infrastructure and land use and street patterns that would encourage families to look at Emeryville as a desirable place to live, where their kids could bike to school, where they would have safe commuting opportunities. And so these are things that that as a representative I can really push for and strongly advocate for it, and hope that that translates to a more family-friendly community.
Thank you.
Jennifer?
Sure. You've mentioned the BPAC committee that you serve on, and one thing that I'm interested in seeing from the Planning Commission or from commissioners really is asking of specific development projects more for the community and looking specifically at transportation issues. So when you have a project, it often gets conditions of approval tacked onto it as it's approved and goes through the process. And I'm wondering if you have ideas of what more we could ask for from a development in order to be sure that we're not just growing our traffic problem and otherwise exacerbating the density that we actually are looking for in town. If you can address some of those issues, that'd be great.
Sure. So we have the Emeryville Brown, which is a great option for accessing the, well, non-functioning BART. The connectivity is poor. So it's actually 3 times faster for me to bike from UC Berkeley home than it would be to take a bus, because I'd have to change over at the town border. There's no direct commute from Berkeley into Emeryville, from Emeryville into Oakland. So I think connectivity is something that developers who have interests all along those corridors could work to encourage.
Of all these new buildings in town, which building kind of stands out and would be kind of the model that you would use as far as a foundation to say, Mr. Developer, this building is something that I'd like to see you build, or something similar to this building in Emeryville?
So I'm not necessarily sure about new development, but the building on Hollis that houses Cliff Bar won the 2012 award from the Center for Built Environment at UC Berkeley for a grand building of sustainable architecture and design. Stimulates better work production, workers are happy. It's a great spot. And so I would say that build out is the model.
Okay, that's because that's a renovation of an existing building.
Correct.
I was actually looking for a new building, but that's fine. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, you have your 1 minute.
No, there's a great pool here, and I've had a lot of fun serving on the committees I'm on to date, and just want to thank you for the time.
Well, thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.